In this session, we're going to discuss inventory materials themselves. We're going to discuss, first of all, the different features and then how to set up an inventory card. So let's go to Setup. We're going to search for our inventory here. Inventory materials. So when you come to this screen, you're going to see a lot of features across the top ribbon here. And you're going to see down below a section called Inventory Materials. These are our search criteria areas. So if I wish to search anything in here, very simple. I can go over here to my search. I can search an entire profit center. I can search my entire inventory for all of my profit centers. Now, if I select either one of these or any other profit center, anytime I do hit search, it will ask me to type a code in. The reason why it does that is if you have thousands upon thousands of part numbers, it does slow the system down. So it's just letting you know. So if I do this and hit OK, then it's going to pull it all up. Typically, when you're searching for stuff, usually you're going to do it by category or even a breakdown of a particular type of part or part number. So I can actually search by part number. I can search by type of inventory. Is it inventory that I buy and sell, or is it something that I have on consignment? You can search by description, manufacturer, code, size, grid, definition, quantity, and even maybe an attribute if you're going to use attributes. And you have up to 3 attributes here. So you can mix or match this however you like. So for example, if I wanted to just pull up my oil filters or anything with oil filter in the description, I hit search. See, it didn't ask me for the code because I had something a little bit more specific on what I'm looking for. Now, when I come in here and I look at these columns, these are just different areas of the part card. You do have the capability of using what we call a column chooser up here. You can turn on or off columns you don't want to see. Now, this is a workstation setting. Workstation means per computer. Now, if I want to see everything, I can do that. Close it up. And now I see all the various columns in here. Now, what if I don't want to see them? Then I can go in and pick and choose what I don't want to see. So if I don't need to see a grid or a code or something like that, I don't need to see it, I can just turn it off. So you can turn on or off whatever you want. The other nice feature is when you're in here looking at these items, if you want to sort, so if I just simply click, I can sort by part number, for example. Now these two here are no good. Somebody put a couple of parts in with no part numbers. Don't think you're going to be able to use them very well. Okay. I can also move the columns by clicking and dragging. So if you want to rearrange them, you can do that. Again, this is all workstation related. Workstation related. Across the top here, you have a reset that just clears it, starts it over again. Search by part number. Now what this was designed for is, let's say I want to come in and search just for 2 or 3 or more specific part numbers. You can search in any profit center or category here. You can search by manufacturer here. And you can search by part numbers. So if I just start typing in part numbers, I put a comma and a space, type in another number, comma, space, and then another number. So you can type in as many as you want. Once you're done, you just hit search, and it pulls just those numbers. So you do have the capability of pulling a small group of numbers at the same time. You can always add any new part number you wish to the system. So when you click on Add, this is going to start a new part card. Think of these as file cards in your system. So step 1 is, where do you want to place it? So if I wanted to add a new oil filter in here, for example, I might put that under lube oil filter service or something like that. What is the definition? Definition is, what is this part? Now these are related to the service packages. And as you learn the system and you start to see how the service packages work and the part lines in those service packages, you'll see how these are connected. But basically, I'm just going to go into binoculars here to the part terminology guide, and I'm going to look for oil filter, see what comes up. I'm going to hit search. And now I'm going to look for the definition. So I know that's an engine oil filter. It's not a differential oil filter or all-wheel drive coupling oil filter. It's a engine oil filter. Okay. Part number. Part number, you want to have an exact part number here. Do not put line codes. Do not put line codes. So if I have a new part number, I'm going to put in the system, just type it in. Description could be whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it. See, it automatically filled that in based off the definition, but that does not mean you have to keep that. You can type in anything you like here. These are required items. Categories required, part numbers required, descriptions required. And as a side note, the reason why you want to have exact part numbers here is when you're in your work orders and you're searching your online connections, the system will always go back and look in your inventory for a matching part number. It does not use line code to do that. So it's actually searching online to your online supplier and your inventory at the same time. So it does make it kind of nice. Manufacturer. Now, manufacturer, code, size, grid, which would be like shelf location, are all optional items. Optional items. So if I do want to put some in, I certainly can. I don't have to. Code could be anything you want, or maybe you might want to put a line code here. Code is also used with some of the permissions for things like pricing profiles and things like that. Size, you can put a size in. Now, if you are going to stock tires, I would definitely put a size in here because the system by default will search by size. So all you got to do is just put the size of the tire in. You know, it's a 260, 70, 18 or something like that. Grid would be shelf location. Every one of these items, category, definition, part number, description, manufacturer, code, size, grid, are all fields in here that you can search by. Default supplier would be who is the primary supplier for this particular part. So when I open this up, this will bring open your supplier list. Now you can scroll through and look for that supplier. Now if it happens to be Napa, all I got to do is just start typing the word Napa in, see, and it pulls it up. And I just set it as my default. Here are my unit conversions. Buy a unit, sell a unit. It's 1 for 1, so that's called a buy factor of 1. Every single unit I buy contains 1 unit. Now, if I happen to buy this in the case, then what I'm going to do is open this up. I might say, well, I buy it by the case, but I sell it by the unit. So that's where the buy factor comes into play. So how many units are in a case? So if I put in 6, all I'm doing is telling the system for every case that I purchase to put 6 units in stock. That's exactly how this works. We'll set that back. You can sell anything you wish in fractions. Now you cannot receive it in a fraction, but you can sell it in a fraction. That's to receive whole units. Is this going to be an inventory item? In other words, am I going to buy it, put it on the shelf and sell it? Am I going to get it on consignment? There will be a completely separate training tour on consignments. This will tell you what you have in stock, what you have on work orders, what's available to sell, anything on a purchase order. You can set min maxes here, lows and highs. I want to keep a minimum of 2 on the shelf and with a maximum of, let's say, 4. Okay. This will be utilized in the inventory reorder, which we will have a separate tour just on this. Again, buy factor, is there a core? If there's a core, typically they're 1 for 1. You could just leave this exactly like it is. You don't have to touch it. The only time you ever have to work with this is if you have a core that takes multiple units to create. And the only example I've ever really run into with that is refrigerant. If there is a core on the bottle. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to deal with that as a separate little lesson in here. Okay. So we'll come back to that. Enable online cataloging is only used for people that actually have online catalogs from their inventory, and other shops would go into their catalog and order parts. Now, if this is something you're interested in, please get a hold of your representative and then they can discuss with you how to set that up. And there is a cost involved with that. This is for people that are using whole goods and they're actually doing repairs on vehicles that they're buying. This is line grouping. So if you happen to have a line group in here, you can actually connect it to a line group and track it in your reports. Okay. Other. Now, because we have attributes set up, then here I could put in, say, an alternate number. Okay. Put in whatever you want. So B3698. That will give you a way to search it under the attribute. All right. Pricing. So step 1 in here is to put in your cost. So here, what is the cost of that filter? So let's say that filter costs me $5. If there's a core on it, then you would put your core value here. Now, if you wish to work off of MSRP, you will need to put an MSRP in here. So if I say my MSRP is $10, there you go. Now I have a retail price, I have an employee price, I have a fleet price, I have a whole goods price. So now I can go about setting my pricing up. So this is what you're going to be selling the product for on the work orders. So I edit. How do I want to mark it up? You can do this on a fixed price. Let's say I have a fixed price of $8.50. The system will always tell you what your gross profit margin is. If I do that, so now I have my price level 1 set. So you can go right down the line and edit each one. Okay. Now, if you don't do this, if you have multiple price levels, if you don't do this, and you come up here and set it as a default sell price, that will automatically filter down to all of these unless you go to each one separately and set it. So if I say 50% margin, you see how it automatically sets it. See the little asterisk? That's what we're talking about. Now, if I want to set this one different, I can do that, see? So what if I want to sell this one at cost plus 10%? Open the line by double clicking. Now I can do a cost plus. So you have fixed price, cost plus or minus percentage, cost plus or minus whole dollars, MSRP plus or minus percentage, MSRP plus or minus whole dollars. So let's go set this one at a cost plus 10. And again, see, that's about a 9% margin. And on our fleet price, we're going to work that off of MSRP. So we'll open this up. And we're going to say on our fleet pricing, we want MSRP minus 5. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways to set your selling prices, but the system will always let you know what your gross profit margins are. And this is what you're going to see in your work orders and in your reports. This is why we do that. Batching. This is going to let you know whenever you bring product in, how many are coming in, how many are left from that batch, what your total cost was. History will give you every action that ever happens with it. Now we're going to come back to this a little bit later and we'll look at some stuff that's actually been used. But basically it's going to go back a year here. If you ever want to come back further, you certainly can. Just hit refresh. You can do that. That's the basics of entering a card in here. So once you have the card in, you save it. Now once you have it saved, now you can start bringing product in. In other words, I need to bring some quantity in. You notice when I hover my mouse here, you see it even gives me the alternate number. Just double click it. So if I wish to recount, that's here. Recount does is so you can adjust the level. Sometimes it might get off, high or low. So you can come in and recount. Now what this is anything I recount up. If I come in here and say, well, I have 10 of these in stock, that's going to be an income. So that's going to hit the general ledger as an income because I'm telling the system I have more materials, $50 worth. Okay. So remember that. If I wish to purchase more inventory, I ordered some inventory from my default supplier. How many did I get? Let's say I got 6. Am I going to return anything? Is anything on back order? There's my unit cost. There is my total for that line. Now, if the total is different, just type it in. So if I say $31, see now it will automatically adjust what that cost is. And here we have it set to update the cost and or MSRP. If my MSRP has changed on this, I can edit the MSRP here. Who am I buying it from? What's the invoice? So here I'm going to put the actual supplier invoice number is what this is. And then I'm going to hit OK. So you see now I have 6 in stock, 6 available to sell. If I go back and look at history, I have purchased 6. And I brought a batch of 6 in. So next time I buy some more, it's just going to add another line here and another line here. As I sell the product, it'll just take it away. It'll be negatives. It'll always let you know where it went, what invoice you sold it on. So what happens also is as I return product to a vendor, it will track that also. I have products sitting on the shelf I want to return. So when I click on return, I just tell it how many I want to send back. Now what this is doing is this is using FIFO, first in, first out. So it's just going to look at whatever the oldest product is. Now if I want and I have multiple batches in here, I can actually click on advanced and pick from a specific batch. So I might have 2, 3, 4 different batches where I brought it in with different costs. And then I can slide it up. And then I can pick how many I want to send back from a specific batch and return that way also. See, now I have down to 4. And again, you're going to see here's where I purchased, here's where I returned. That's a basic card right there, how it works. Now we will talk about purchase orders a little bit later in a different session. Now, if I have a particular product in here and I don't want it any longer, I cannot just up and delete it unless there is nothing in stock and nothing on a work order. Okay. So if I try to delete this, it's going to stop me. See, because I have active. Okay. So you can quite easily track your system. You can see what you have. If you don't want it anymore, you can get rid of it. And guess what? I can delete an item in here and I can recover it. So if I go delete an item, I can actually go search for it. Let's go find something to delete here. Let's see here. Okay, I don't have any in stock. I don't have any on a work order. So this one I can delete. So I'm going to right click on it. See, that's the same thing as me coming up to the top. I'm going to delete. And now I've deleted that item. As a quick reminder, once you delete out of here, if you ever want to pull that product back, I can go to my utilities off of the home ribbon, deleted item recovery, and go look for it. That's the inventory material item. And again, you can go back as far as you want. Now, if you're not sure of the part number, can't quite remember, nice little trick here, asterisk. Asterisk's like a wild card. Hit search. It'll just pull up everything. See, everything that's been deleted in the last month. There it is. Click it. You can go here and see what it was. And if you want to put it back in the system, you just hit recover and it puts it back in.